Hello and welcome to 14.1 Perimeter and Circumference. Today as you take notes you'll be handed a notebook foldable and we're going to fill out the first two tabs on perimeter and circumference. You do not need to write any of this down in your notebook unless you wish to add more to it, but I'll give you pictures along the way of what I expect to look what your foldable should look like. So our objective today, which again you don't need to write down, but we just need to know what it is, we're going to find the perimeter of a polygon and find the circumference of a circle. Alright, so to be able to find those things we have to know some vocabulary words. Again, you don't need to write this down, just take a look with me here. When we find the perimeter of a polygon, which is any sided shape figure, right? It could be a triangle, a square, a rectangle, a nonagon, any of those things. It's the distance around the geometric figure. So, for example, around your house, if you have a fence, your fence would be the perimeter. So how much fencing would I need? I would find the perimeter. Circumference, then, only deals with circles. So perimeter is any sided shape. Right? Our rectangles, our hexagon, octagons, decagons, all of those. Circumference only deals with circles. So it's the distance around the outside of a circle. So similar to our perimeter, but only that the shape is a circle. Alright, so on your first tab there on the front, it says perimeter. Next to perimeter there, I want you to write the formula for the perimeter. Now the only thing though is that the perimeter really doesn't have a specific formula because you're just adding up all the sides. So next to perimeter, I want you to write this. Add up all the sides. Okay, so go ahead and write that down and I'll show you a picture here in a second of what I'm asking for. So to find the perimeter of the polygon, we are going to add up all the sides. This is what it looks like when we do our work. So here we have a rectangle with sides S, T, V, and W. And to find the perimeter equals all the sides added up. So T plus S plus W plus V, that's how we're going to show our work. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. And so this is what yours should look like, that first tab. Add up all the sides. That's all it is. So no matter how many sides the polygon has, you're just going to add up all the sides. Alright, so now you're going to fold the tab open, and we are going to do 3 examples. And this is how I want it to look in your first tab. So you're going to open it up, and here I have labeled number 1, number 2, number 3. If you want to actually draw 3 sections, you can do that as well. But if you notice, I have the picture with labels for each example. So I expect you to draw the picture, draw the labels, and then we're going to show our work. When we find perimeter, because we don't have a specific formula, we're only going to have 2 lines of work with perimeter. P equals, so P is perimeter, and then we're going to show our work, and then the second line is going to be P equals, and then our answer. So for all of these, when you find perimeter today, you're going to have 2 lines of work. Okay, so let's write down those examples as we go here. So here's example number 1. Find the perimeter. Okay, go ahead, draw a triangle, label your sides 25 centimeters, 25 centimeters, and 15 centimeters. All right, and what work do we need to show here? All right, so as we have that, our first line of work is actually going to be the numbers that we're adding together. Like I said before, we don't have a formula, so it's only going to be 2 lines of work. So P equals 25 plus 25 plus 15, which gives us 65. And we can't forget our label, right? So 25 plus 25 plus 15, P equals 65 centimeters. Okay, so this is the work for perimeter that I expect on every single problem when you find perimeter. All right, let's go to the next one. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. All right, here's one formula that perimeter kind of has, but it only pertains to a rectangle. You do not have to use this perimeter formula, but you can if you have a rectangle. And that's just saying that we know a rectangle, the lengths are the same on both sides, and then the width are the same. So instead of just saying L plus W plus L plus W, we can say 2 times the length plus 2 times the width equals a rectangle. So again, you don't have to use this, you don't have to write this down, but just be aware that if you want to take a little bit of a shortcut with perimeter, you can only on rectangles though. All right, so here's the next example, number 2. Find the perimeter of a rectangle. go ahead and draw this rectangle. It's 14 feet by 18 feet. To find the perimeter, our first line is going to be P equals and add them together. And we know that in a rectangle, opposite sides are equal. So if this is 18, the other side is 18. So here's our first line of work. We can go ahead and add those together, and we get a total of 64 feet. Okay, so the perimeter of this rectangle is 64 feet. And here's my 2 lines of work for perimeter. We're going to do one more. Fast forward. All right, here's our rectangle. This time we have 8 feet by 16 feet. Go ahead and draw this for our last one there in that tab. And we're going to add them together. Okay. And again, our rectangle, we know the sides are the same, opposite across from each other. Add them up, we get 48 feet. My little skinny 8 there. There you go. Okay, so that's perimeter. Add up all the sides. As you do some problems today, you're going to have heptagons, hexagons, octagons, and you're just going to do the same thing. An octagon has 8 sides, so you're going to have 8 numbers listed here before you add them together. All right? All right, let's go to the next tab, which is circumference. All right. So you don't need to write any of this down, but let's take a look. So distance around the circle is called the circumference. With finding the circumference, you need to know the diameter. And we just took a test on diameter of a circle. So it's one side to another going through the middle. There are 2 ways that we find this, right, depending on what we know. We can either, if we know the diameter, we're going to use this part, this first formula, circumference equals pi times the diameter. Or if I know the radius, which is halfway, right, from the middle to the outside, we're going to multiply the radius by 2 and then multiply it by pi. There are 2 numbers we're going to use for pi. We can use the approximate decimal, which we're going to use a lot, so 3.14. I know that you have a pi button, but we are not going to use the button. We're either going to use 3.14 or the fraction 22/7. And I will tell you which one to use, but please don't use your pi button. All right, so on your tab, you're going to have 2 things. Okay, so I want you to write exactly this in the middle here. C equals pi times diameter, or C equals 2 pi r. Okay, and over here we just have a picture to remind us. Diameter is all the way across. Radius is the half, right? And so if we double the radius, we get the diameter. So that's why we have the times 2. This is what it should look like now. So on your circumference, C equals pi times diameter, or, right, because there's 2 different ones depending on if we know the radius or the diameter, 2 pi r. All right, open up your tab, and we are going to have 3 examples here. So we have a picture with numbers 1 and 2, and then number 3, it's a word problem, so we're going to label what we know and then find our answer. So our next tab is going to look like this. Again, you can draw into 3 sections, or you can just number them like mine. All right, here's our first one. Number 1 here, for example 3, find the circumference of the circle to the nearest tenth. So we're going to round this, and we're going to use 3.144 pi. Because we know the diameter, we're going to use our first formula, circumference equals pi times diameter. Now, because we have a specific formula, circumference, you need to have 3 lines of work. So perimeter is 2 lines, circumference is 3. The first line must be the formula. Okay. So there's line 1. Line 2, now we're going to plug in what pi is and plug in our diameter. And then we can go ahead and put in our calculator, and we get an answer of 37.68. However, it says that we want to round to the nearest tenth. All right, so we're going to round to 37.7, and we're going to make sure we have a label, inches. Everything needs a label here. All right, there's my 3 lines of work. Right, we're going to skip through all that. Whew. All right, here's our second example, though, for circumference. This time, you notice we only have the radius halfway, so this is 18 centimeters. So we're going to use, almost forgot my 2 there. So 2 times 3.14, right? We want the 2 because we're multiplying by the radius. We want to double it. And I get 113.04. The 4, though, was not enough to make the 0, 1. So my final answer is 113 centimeters. Okay, and you can put the 0.0 or you can leave it either way. All right, last example here is a word problem. It says the diameter of a circular pond is 42 meters. What is its circumference? Now, though, we'll take a look. It says use 22/7 for pi. So now we're not using 3.14. We're going to use 22/7 for that. We know the diameter, so we're going to use the formula that has the diameter in it. So C equals pi times D. Before we go, let's go ahead and label what we know so that we know the diameter is 42 meters. And then let's go use our formula. Okay. So you're going to use your button, your fraction button. Many of you have a backslash button that you're going to use, or you have that ABC button. And then multiply that by 42, and you get an answer of 132 meters. All right, and then that includes 14.1 perimeter and circumference. Now you're going to take your paper, fold it in half 3 times. You need 10 boxes for sure. You'll probably have more, but you're only going to use 10. And then you're going to go around the room and fill out the 10 questions. Hand it in before you leave today, so if you don't get done, you need to still hand it in, right? So get as far as you can. And then you have a worksheet for the weekend, 14.1. Put your answers in your notes. Remember that perimeter needs 2 lines of work. Circumference is 3 lines of work. I'll be looking for that on Monday. All right. Enjoy and good luck.